Hi YouTube and Blade Forums, this is John here again, back with the second round of the VG-10 cut test. The first round was with the Spyderco Delica with the hollow ground blade. That achieved 300 cuts of this sisal rope here. A lot better than I was expecting it to do. So on this cut test here, I'm comparing these two Delicas. The one I'm going to be doing on this cut test is the Delica 4 FRN with the full flat ground. Okay, so this Delica was purchased back in 2012. It was an everyday carry for about 3 years for me. This one I got about 2 years ago and sporadically carried intermittently with this in my 940-1. So these knives are several years apart, so I think it's a good test to see how Spyderco does on their heat treats, how consistent they are. Plus it will also show some interest on this test about the grinds, if one grind is superior compared to the other. But that will be hard to know because it could just come down to the hardness on the heat treat as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start the test now. Sisal rope, 3/8 of an inch, 9.5 millimeters, cutting until it can no longer slice the printer paper cleanly. So you can see it cuts through the printer paper, no problem. So here we go. I'm going to be still a little tired from the last test, so if I'm having difficulty going through the rope, it may not be the blade, it may just be me. So the blade stock on these two blades are actually the same, but the full flat ground version is actually grounded thinner once you get past halfway past the hole on the knife here. This one, it seems to be cutting. It seems to be very similar performance to the first Spyderco with the hollow grind. It feels to have more of that razor's edge than the S35 did. But, you know, I feel like I might be getting to the rope a little bit easier on this one, maybe. It's hard to say. Actually, you know what? It's because of my technique. I've changed it. I'm going forward then backwards now. I was doing it like this before. So that just takes a lot more force to do, so I'm doing the sawing motion now. So yeah, these are cutting about the same, actually. So let's do a checkup here, see how we're doing on the printer paper now, after just a few cuts. Still cuts it clean, no problem. The FRN grip, being a little thicker, it's a little more comfortable in the hand when I'm doing these high pressure cuts here. They have the same handle shape, it's just this handle's thicker, and I think it makes a difference on the ergonomics. Like I said though, for regular light duty EDC tasks, I really love the stainless steel handle one. That's the one I choose to carry. One thing I like about the stainless steel handle one is it doesn't tear up the pockets as easily as rough handles do. And so to me that's a big plus. I've run several pants pockets with this knife. Not quickly, just over a long period of time. I mean, after all, I did carry it for 3 years. But I like my pants to not wear out at the pockets before the pants themselves wear out. So I do appreciate knives that have a little smoother handle, since I don't normally do hard use with my knives. At the same time though, I never baby these guys here. So these things actually get used. I touch up my Delicas probably once or twice a month, depending on how much I'm using them. And my touch-ups, I don't normally have to go beyond the Spyderco white stone, the ceramic. Again, for this test, I did the hand sharpening, 600 grit DMT diamond stone, the red one. Then refining the edge on the Spyderco Sharp Maker at 20-degree setting, and then moving on to a homemade strop loaded with a green compound, 6 swipes, 3 passes on each side. So the grind is about 20 degrees, as close as I can eyeball it. So I think this is the type of edge you can expect to get yourself if you have just a sharpening stone. And in reality, I could go straight from the 600, just right to the white Spyderco rod and be done. The strop is unnecessary. I only just started using that a month or two ago anyways. But it does make a difference. But I find if you do more than a couple passes on the strop, you end up making the edge so smooth it's not very effective in fibrous materials like rope and paper. Let's do a paper cut test. Still cuts. I'm just using the about the front inch, maybe inch and a quarter, inch and a half at the most. So hopefully I have enough rope here. I used about half on the last Spyderco test. Hey there YouTube, sorry about that. My battery died and my SD card ran out. So I just reloaded the battery and a new SD card. So I just found out this knife is giving me a hot spot. Not this one, but both of them. It's just digging in right here, right where the thumb ramp is there. But I mean, this is a lot of cutting. So back to the rope cuts here. Let's start by cutting a piece of paper again here. Still cuts cleanly through the paper. There was about a 3-minute delay, maybe 4-minute delay while I went and got the battery from upstairs and got a new SD card to put in here. So let's resume the testing here. I'm going to try to keep my finger off the ramp there if I can. Yeah, I'm very interested to see the results on this. I've always wondered which one is the better cutter and which one holds the edge better. I've always liked the hollow grind for cutting better, for everything except for cutting through fruit. The hollow grind seems to take a little bit sharper of an edge. You know, that's hard to judge, but it does seem to take a sharper edge. It does seem a little bit thinner behind the edge, just right behind it. But by the time you get to the top of the knife, this one's quite a bit thinner. And it does seem like this one is actually cutting through the rope better, but it's hard to say. I may have just improved my technique from the last video. It's still cutting decently. It takes a lot of pressure to cut through here, but it's still cutting nicely. I'm going to have to cut smaller pieces of rope here because I'm getting close to running out here. Alright, let's try a cut test just to see where we're at here. Yeah, it's got some dulling going on now. It's definitely slowing down a little. I don't know how many cuts I'm at. I'll tabulate it once the video ends again. So it'll be a surprise to both of us how many this ends up cutting compared to the first Spyderco. I feel like this one's dulling a little bit faster than the hollow ground though. I'm not quite sure though. We'll see when the numbers come in. I feel like I'm having to shake the table a lot now, earlier on than I did when I was cutting with the other Spyderco. You know, I also have a Spyderco Sage 3, and that thing is a slicer. That thing has such a high full flat grind. It comes so thin at the edge. I get the feeling that it would just slice through here, and it has such a good shape for slicing tasks. The thing about the Sage 3 though, I bought it, but I rarely carry it. It's so wide in the pocket. It takes up so much space. It's hard to even reach into your pocket when that thing's in there. So yeah, it's just too wide, and it's hard to choose that when you have the 940 to go to, which is so much thinner. But as far as cutting performance goes, that Sage 3 is really my favorite overall. I think it just has amazing cutting performance, and the ergonomics are just superior to most other knives I've tried. It's just the knife fits your hand like a glove. And I like that the thumb ramp is not as steep on the Sage as it is on these Delicas here. So it makes it more comfortable to bear down on cuts. I really think that Sage 3, it's the best cutter I've ever used. It's just too bad it has to be so wide in the pocket. I think another reason I like the Sage 3 and I was drawn to it is because the lock is very similar to the Axis lock, except in my opinion it's a longer lasting lock because it has a standard coil spring instead of those Omega springs. On my 940-1, my Omega springs have broken twice on me in a period of less than 2 years. And I bought that thing brand new. Sounds like something beeped on my camera. Alright, let's try another cut test. Make sure I'm not going too far. Huh? Still push cuts, look at that. So again, the tip on this one's dulling faster than the rest, so I think the tip is getting the brunt of the work on here. But it's still cutting through the paper pretty clean. It's not as clean as it was, but it's still not too hard either. Yeah, I can see why now. When I'm doing the sawing motion, the tip is just going right into the wood when I'm sawing, so I think that's why the front seems to be wearing out more, because most of the cutting is really happening right here, right in between those two spots where my thumb is, about right there. About a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch is where most of the cutting action is happening. The thing about these ingot steels is when they start to wear out, they really wear out pretty quick. Whereas those CPM steels, those powdered steels, they wear out more linearly. They kind of just gradually wear out. They don't just suddenly drop off. That's what these ingot steels seem to do. Those powder steels, they seem to maintain their cutting performance and just gradually reduce it. These ones, they get significantly harder to cut pretty rapidly into the test. So just in case you didn't see the last two videos, this is maple wood that I'm cutting into here. try another cut test. I'm running out of rope here. Hopefully I'll have enough to make it for the test. This thing seems like it almost wants to push cut still. No, no more push cutting. That push cutting's gone. Let's see, in frame. It's ripping paper a little bit. Let me get a different angle on here. Okay, it's still cutting. It's getting pretty close to the end though. This is my cutting area here. You can see it's still going in. So I think this cut test will finish before this rope expires, I think. Let's see here. Let's just see how it will cut if I pull through it. Oh, 2 cuts. Let's try another cut test. I feel like it's dropping off pretty quickly now. It looks like that still cuts reliably to me. It's still, at this point, even though it's getting dull, it's still a workable edge. You know, I think the non-knife people, the people who don't regularly carry a knife, would actually probably consider this sharper than what they're used to. You'd be surprised. I go to some of my friends' houses and their butcher knives, their chef's knives, are like as dull as their butter knives, and they really have no idea how dull they are. And then when they try cutting with one of my knives, they get a smile on their face because it's just sharper than they've ever used before. Yeah, that's really starting to get dull there. I would consider that still cutting though. I would consider that reliably cutting, in fact. You know, it seems like this steel may be on the same track as the other one. And if that's the case, that will be very good for Spyderco. I will be very pleased to have such a consistent heat treat over a period of 4 years. I think that would be a nice badge of honor for Spyderco. I've got to conserve this rope here, running out. Have about maybe 8 feet left. I'm going to start making smaller cuts. For some reason I finished the rope before I finish this knife here. I'll have to go run to the hardware store and finish this test another day. Don't want to do that though. I'd like to get this done the same day. Paper cut test. Okay, sorry, the recording stopped again. Camera, I think, automatically does that after around 12 minutes. I don't know why, but it does. paper cut. See how we're doing. Keeps going. Wow, it's impressive. It's really taking quite a bit more force to cut this now. I get the feeling a lot of Delica owners might be happy to see how far this Delica has managed to come. And I think it shows pretty well that you'll have a good chance of getting a good heat treat as well if both of these knives perform well. Alright, let's give it a try again. Still going. Okay, I got about 1 foot here and I got about 3 more feet from yesterday's test still left I can use. It's really a lot duller though now. It's a lot harder to go through. But it seems to keep cutting paper pretty well though. I hope I finish this tonight. I don't want to have to wait for a day or two to get the results of this. I'm really curious now how far this thing is going to go. To me, I consider this dull. I mean, very dull. I mean, obviously it still works, but it's so hard to cut through here. Okay, looks like we're just about there. Well, almost there. Looks like we still have a little ways to go. Looks like good news though. I might be able to finish this tonight. It's starting to look like. It's getting really hard to cut this. I don't know why it still cuts paper, honestly. This is really taking a lot of force. Alright, let's try another cut. Here we go. Printer paper. Still cutting. It's leaving quite a rough edge on the paper though. It's not by any means a smooth cut anymore. Alright, maybe 3 feet of rope here left. I'm going to try to keep these cuts as small as I can. It's getting so hard to cut to this rope though. I may have to call the test over before it stops cutting paper, possibly. I don't know what that would mean. If it will cut the paper but not the rope. Interesting. A few more cuts. It seems about done though. Yeah, you know, for all practical EDC use, I don't know if anyone really would need much higher edge retention than this. This seems to go really the distance, but it's still easy to sharpen. I can really sharpen this knife up with just a couple passes on the white Spyderco stone. That's not the case with S90 or S390. The 390 is easier than the S90, though. That maybe takes me 15 passes on the white stone. But still, alright, let's try another cut test. Alright, still cutting. Looks like I might make it to the end of the rope. It's so dull though. Yeah, I don't know why it still cuts the paper. It's just, it takes a lot to push through this thing right now. I guess just good edge geometry and a decent steel goes a long way. Okay, that's getting almost impossible to cut now. You see this front section is sliding off half the time. Let's see if I get into it though. This is still part of the cutting area here. It's hard for me to classify this. I don't know how to classify this. It still cuts. Try a few more cuts. Now, of course, in this video, you can call it the test at an end whenever you want. If you think this was done cutting earlier, you can call it. I'm just trying to do it until it doesn't cut that paper anymore, until it doesn't slice it anymore. Okay, I'm calling it there. That's about as far as it can be useful. It's really choking up. Further back here, this is where it's not being used. It's kind of halfway cutting, halfway not, but really up here where it's being used the most, it's not cutting very effectively anymore. See, when I put it up here, it doesn't go into the paper easily at all. It can still get in, but it's so dull. Let me see here. Yeah, so okay, so it's still cutting, but not reliably. So I'm satisfied that this is the actual endpoint of the test. I don't think I overshot it. I think this is the end. The front is very dull, but it still manages to get in. The back portion here gets in easier, but this is the part that was getting used the most right here. So I'm going to call it an end. I'm going to go and review the counts, and I will come back and report the results to you. Hi, YouTube and Blade Forums. I'm back here. Got the cuts counted up. So on the VG-10, on the flat ground Delica 4, I got 360 cuts. So that's 60 cuts more than the VG-10 on the hollow grind blade here. So we have 300 cuts on this guy with the hollow grind Delica, 360 on the flat grind Delica, and then 438 on the ZT with the S35 VN steel. So a notable performance increase going up to the S35, but not night and day. So personally for me, with such small variances, with this class of steels here, I don't think I would let the steel dictate which knife to get. To me, these are all close enough in cutting performance. However, cutting wise, this was a lot easier to cut with. It was more ergonomic. It was a lot easier to bear down on. It didn't create any hot spots for me. I got a blister doing the cuts with these two, but no issues with this one. And even though this thing is not so thin behind the edges, these two are, it gets pretty thick pretty fast. It cut really well. And something about this S35 steel, it really had a good cutting action. It really cut through the rope really easily, kind of like a saw. These two kind of perform like more like a straight razor. It took a lot more sawing action just to get the cut to go through. But here's the results. Hollow ground is 300, flat ground is 360. Whether that's the steel, whether it's the grind, I don't know. But this thing did a heck of a job. And you know, with all that use, it has not developed any blade play. It's the same as it was when I first started the test. So that's it for this test. I'll think about whether or not I'll test my 940 or the Valet in the 390. That will probably put those numbers up quite a bit higher. But let me know what you guys think. Post in the comments. Again, this test is not scientific. It's just to test my knives on these set of parameters to see what the results are. And hopefully people looking to buy a knife or just curious how their knives might perform with this kind of test, I hope this will be useful information. So thank you very much, guys.